A Babylon shaman by lineage and journey certified life coach by choice. She is a guide on the hero's journey, helping others go into the unknown and appear on the other side, transformed into the person they thought they couldn't be with a life they thought they couldn't have. Her work is the lightning path, getting powerful results by weaving the esoteric knowledge of shamanic healing, energy medicine, and the spiritual world with the sciences of positive psychology, cognitive science, and neurobiology, delivered in a package of person-centered coaching. In her experience, it's only when we work with all the aspects of ourselves, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, that true transformation and healing are possible. Welcome, Charlene Courpus.
Woo woo! Yay!
What's
Thank you
up?
for
How are
having
you?
me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. How are
So
you?
I'm doing really well, and I'm super excited to interview you. But not only interview you, but I want to start with your story, but I also want to talk about the stuff that you're super excited about and how you help people. Because anyone listening to this, I think, can find all of those things helpful. I mean, what I love about you is I don't know how to say this, but like the the quote unquote the woo woo side, right? Like, and I say woo woo because people. I think a lot of people, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to things that aren't logical or that require some kind of anything where you can't see, and it's very easy for people to kind of drag and drop that into the woo woo category. With you, I love that about you. I think it's powerful.
Well,
So,
I can't stray too far into the woo woo side because I wasn't always woo woo or
mhm,
intuitive. That didn't happen until a few years ago. So, my very Asian, like neuroscience, animal physiology, like major, like brain is like, no, we have to like ground this in science
right,
and in evidence and
right.
etc. It can't just be that.
Yes, it can't just be that. I agree with you, and it also can't just be logic and textbooks and all of that. So let's start with your story because you have one of the most fascinating. I mean, talk about hero's journey. I've known you for a while, and man, I feel like you've really returned to the village changed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My company's called Heroes Journey Wellness because I really, this is what we all walk. And
Hmm.
so with me, it started out, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. That's how I met you.
Hmm.
I had gone through my ex is in prison for life for torture for what had happened. And, through the state, I'd gotten free therapy, free domestic violence therapy, free group therapy. And it was great. I had done that maybe for a year and a half, 2 years, but I've kind of felt like I was spinning my wheels. And uh, just right when I felt like that, that's when I found Buddhism and that's when I found you. And I think I told you this when I started seeing you is that it was really the Buddhism that kind of like broke up, right, the soil. So
Hmm.
then I could lay down a new foundation through coaching with you. And it was really, I think, like, I started thinking like 2.5 months. Like I remember I used to see you sometimes 3, sometimes 5 times a week,
Hmm.
but in 2.5 months, totally changed my life.
Yeah.
Totally
What do you
changed my life.
think? What do you think was the biggest catalyst? And I'm not going to say me. I know we work together, but what do you think the biggest? I mean, I don't want you to say me, but what do you think was the biggest catalyst in your life of entering this journey? Um, just beginning, because I know, and of course, you're still on a journey, right? We all are,
Mhm.
but um, what was the biggest thing that got you to start having internal shifts and seeing a direct change in your life?
Gosh, you know what? It was that work that we had, right? Becoming transparent, really figuring out who I was,
Hmm.
not all the stories and all of the things that other people gave me, right? Not all the masks that I had to wear and all the identities and the roles I had to play, but like, what is it that I really wanted for me? And when I figured out that that was really important and that was the way that I could be happy, well, then it was like, okay, well, then I need to protect this. I need to put boundaries around this.
Mm,
And then from there, you go from creating a container,
yeah.
right? But it was really believing that just, man, like, oh, I was miserable. I remember I was suffering so much. I just felt like I was barely treading water and getting nowhere. And I was just so tired of it. I was like, there has to be something else.
Yeah.
There has to be something else. And it was just that belief that there just has to be something else. And when I discovered how good it felt just to be who I was and to own my choices and to do
Hmm.
whatever it is that really resonated with me, man, that just set everything on fire because that felt really good.
Yeah. I also love that you just said I needed to protect this. So I think that's a hard line. When people draw, things can change. And I think a lot of people, especially coming from a history of DV, you wanting to protect you for the first time in your life, maybe. Um,
Mhm.
God, that's empowering. But also, if you really hold that with two hands, how can that not change your life? Because most of us, we don't know how to protect. We know how to protect other people, and also most of us are very good at it. And we put that very high as far as priority, the people that we love, but we don't protect ourselves. And protection can come in all forms. So not just like boundaries and all that, but even like deciding that you have value, you have a voice, you have worth. You just mentioned being transparent. I think all of that falls under self-protection.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely, and that's the thing, right? Just like you said, it's so easy to do it for everyone else, but when it comes to yourself, man, it's hard. It feels like it's selfish. It feels like I'm letting people down, but it's like really, that's how you show up best in the world, by
yeah.
protecting what's really valuable, and that's your heart, and that's your choices, and that's who you really are. So,
What did you start protecting first? So when you started getting on this bike and it was wobbly and you started to develop this relationship with yourself, getting yourself better, studying things like Buddhism, what did you start to protect first for you?
gosh, my voice.
Mm,
First of all,
mm-hmm.
that was a big thing, being Asian, right? Like you get used to speaking a certain way and doing certain things for other people, for your parents,
Yeah,
etc., for to be honorable and to be presentable and all of these things. And I realized, no, like the person that I would like, she needs to speak,
right.
like she needs to say what's in her heart, or else like she's just like drowning, right, just dying behind this mask. So yeah, I had to protect like my voice and my ability, and my right to use it.
Mm.
It was really hard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Buddhism. I love so in the lab you teach practical Buddhism,
Mhm.
and I'm a big fan of Buddhism. First, what is Buddhism to you?
Oh gosh, Buddhism is a philosophy.
Hmm.
The idea that you can find freedom in this moment, you can find freedom from suffering by just coming back to like everything right here and right now is pretty okay. And if you just be open to the unfolding of whatever it is, instead of trying to hold on so tightly onto your idea of what it should be, it'll all work out.
Yeah,
Something simple.
how do you and easier said than done. How do you do that? How do you let go of the rock, let the river of life take you? I know with Buddhism, getting hooked is kind of it's a concept
Mhm.
that they talk about a lot. Uh, how do you not get hooked? How do you practice
It's
Buddhism in a practical way?
So it's really cultivating this mindset. I think that's what really distinguishes Buddhism and really helped me as far as the rest of the work that we did, is that it reframed my mindset where, in the type of meditation that I practice, it's you learn to be the witness, right? To be the
Hmm.
observer, that you're not so personal inside of your story. You're like, oh, this is happening to me right now. But the idea with meditation is that your mind is a river. It's
Yeah.
always going to be flowing. It's always going to be flowing. You can try to dam it up and it'll just go around the sides, right? So you let your mind flow, and then your thoughts and your emotions are sticks. And you can choose to pick them up to get into the river, but you're going to get wet. You can only hold the sticks for so long. Or you can be the observer and just watch them go by, watch them go by. Try not to be attached to what it is and just let it flow. And if you can get this idea of distance, right, and perspective from whatever it is that you're going through, because it's so immediate, it's so hard. But if you get the idea of like, okay, I'm just going to watch this happen, I'm just going to be with this feeling instead of have a story about this feeling and get
Mm.
caught up in my story, let me just feel this, then it can just pass by.
What's the difference between observing and giving up? Or is there a fine line? Or like, what I'm saying, like almost checking out. Can people hide behind this idea of observing and just not be active, 'Cause
Sure. And I think
observing
that's,
doesn't mean to not be active, right? Observing
yeah, I
doesn't
think
mean to just sit on the couch and cross your fingers.
Oh, absolutely. It's just see, but it's an active thing of recognizing what's there, acknowledging it, and letting it float on by. So then afterwards, on the back end, you can let things rise up,
Mm.
right? It's because we don't let things just float on by that we don't let the things rise up along with it, right? We try to hold on to it or we try to dam it up, and that stuff needs to come up too. So you just, yeah, it's an active process. It's never one that's passive, but you're very much being an active observer. Just the way when you're an active listener, you're really listening for what's there. When you're an active observer, you're really observing for what is truly here and let me be with that.
Ooh, I love that you're an active observer. I haven't heard observing in that terms. So we've all heard of active listening, of course,
Mhm.
and that requires not just listening to words, but like body language, eye contact. The 360. To be an active observer, that's really interesting. What does that mean?
To be really engaged.
Hmm.
I think, being engaged in the world around. I mean, like things going outside, right? Most people just go outside and they just go outside, they go around, they do their thing. They don't think about, oh, the feel of the sun on my skin.
Mm.
Like look at this
Using all your
pretty
senses, anchoring with your sensors.
exactly.
Yeah, being mindful.
Yeah. Hmm. Just being here now.
Yeah, being here now. I love it, and I feel that one of the biggest changes in you is your energy, and that's a word that you use a lot from when I met you, and it's got to be what, like maybe like 7 years ago. It's been a while to
Mhm. Maybe
now.
8. Yeah, yeah.
8 years ago, your energy is so different. There's a calmness. There's a calmness about you. There's a and maybe it has to do with some kind of inner peace. I don't know, but you're not in a fear, and I don't know if it's constant because we're all afraid, sometimes. But overall, cumulatively, you're not in fight or flight. You're not in fear. You're more in calm.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's something that, I've worked really hard to cultivate, but it's also too, I'm not afraid of fear. Like I've
Mm,
trained myself to go up to the cliff's edge and just feel, oh shit, fuck this sucks, and then just go.
right.
And you train yourself enough to do that, then it just becomes, oh, okay, fuck shit, this sucks. All right. Let's go. Let's go into it. And I think when you realize that no matter what happens, that you can trust in yourself
Mhm.
and that you'll be okay no matter what because you've got you, that gives you a certain grace in the moment, right? Being able to hold it like just loosely, but also just to be calm and here and now.
Yeah. How did you get to shamanism? Tell us about that.
Oh, that's a long story. uh
Yeah.
so
Give us the Cliff Notes version.
Sure. So I became intuitive overnight. I was assaulted, like, drugged and whatnot. And the next day, all of a sudden, everything was turned on, all of my intuition. It's called a Kundalini awakening,
Mm.
where when someone goes through trauma, sometimes all of a sudden, right, they become intuitive. And I could hear things and I just knew things. And it was just really, really, really weird.
Was it
But
also vision, or was it just was it more like feeling, noticing things about yourself that you didn't notice? Was it like
it,
it's like a spidey sense? What do you describe? What you're talking about when you say intuitive?
It was a feeling, it was a knowing, it was just all of it, and actually hearing certain things. Really, sorry, my cat here.
I was like,
But
is that? Do you have a baby now? Oh, was your cat?
no,
Hilarious. Okay.
no, that's my cat.
Yeah.
No, but it was just a knowing. And that was probably the hardest thing because I'm claircognizant. Like that's my primary intuitive ability is being claircognizant. And with that, you don't have like a visual confirmation or an auditory confirmation. You just know
Hmm.
what's right. And I had this deep knowing about what was right. And when I followed it, everything just kind of fell into place. And I found shamanism as I was telling my friend about it. And she recommended a shaman to me for it. And I went to go see them. And, I had access to you and therapists and whatnot. But after just one session with them, it was like everything was transformed, like everything was changed.
What
So
was that session like? So what? And I've never had a session with a shaman. What do you do? What was it? What's the ritual with that?
It's different for everyone, but
Yeah.
for me, mine's centered around shamanic journeys. So
Hmm.
that's going into a vision quest.
Mm,
Essentially, you enter into a trance-like state, and that allows you to go into the spiritual world to make changes or to get information, whatever it is that you have there. And with me, yeah, it was just really, really profound. So when you make changes then on that energetic spiritual level, right? It's this idea of like higher energy, higher vibrational energy. It comes down actually into your physical, your mental, and your emotional bodies as well. It takes a little bit of time, right, to settle in and for all that stuff to open up. But it's all connected. So if you make changes there, it's easier to make changes here. And
hmm.
same thing, vice versa. But by starting there first, it just makes things faster.
So now you help people as a shaman yourself, no?
Yes, yes, I do. That actually wasn't how I got into it. I was only learning it because the person who was my shaman, they went off to the jungles of Peru for a couple of years.
Mm,
They had already done apprenticeship for medicine, but they had gone on a really, really long one. I don't want to cheat on them. So I was like, well, I'm really good at doing the journeys when we're together and they could just guide me through. They didn't even need a drum or anything. So I was like, well, let me just learn for myself so I could just work on myself a little bit and not cheat on them. And then it turned out maybe about like even the first class that I had, like my journeys compared to my classmates were totally different.
hmm.
There was a very definite theme. They were like really weird, really powerful. Then about a month after that, I had this sort of crisis where I had to use shamanic healing with a friend of mine. And that's when my spirit guides were essentially, no, you're really good at this because you're meant to do this for other people. So go.
Mm,
And that's like literally been my life. They did that to me too with my corporate job. They got me fired.
hmm.
I mean, kindly fired, but like fired in a way where I got severance and I got unemployment and I got my bonus still and all these
Right.
things. So, but they did that so then that way I would start on my path and just have a bit.
Yeah. So it's like they close that door so a new one can open.
Yep, absolutely. So like it's always been like breadcrumbs for me, right? Breadcrumbs here, 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 because I follow it and say yes, then it opens up.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting is when you say guides, yeah, and by the language that you're using, uh, I'm curious about what that's like for you. So when you say guides, is it do you pray to your guides? How are you communicating with guides? How are you allowing guides to be a rudder in your life and the decisions you make?
Oh gosh, like pretty much everything I run by my intuition. If my
Hmm.
guides say to do something, like sometimes I'm like, fuck, fine, 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 I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want.
Wait, is it a
Just
feeling
because
or a voice?
it's both sometimes. Sometimes
Mm,
it's a voice
yeah.
now, sometimes it's a feeling now, sometimes I get visuals. I often do shamanic journeys, but I'm also just naturally intuitive. So like we have a conversation. It's like we have a relationship just like anyone else. And sometimes they tell me to do something while I'm doing something like talking to you. And it's up to me whether or not I want to do something about that. But I'm pretty tapped in pretty much 24/7. It's basically become my life, and I didn't ever intend for it to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I think all that is interesting, and I don't really know where I fall on like I don't have a personal experience with guides. I have had um, Akashic records readings where
Mhm.
they open up your Akashic records and they talk about your guides and all that. And I've had many of those, which I thought really fascinating. I'm always curious about all the different types of, especially today, everything from astrology to Akashic records to psychics and all that. I think all of that is fascinating. And I've been on this planet long enough where um, there's I'm open to everything, especially
Mhm.
now at 47. There are things I know that are happening that we cannot see.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about things like guides, it makes my ears perk up. I'm very curious about that. So that's something that you bring into not only your practice, but just as you're just you as you maneuvering through this world. No.
Yeah, and I don't really intend to do that. And also too, I'm sorry, going back to the idea of guides too, like the easiest way to work with them, like I said, for me, it's come to a point where I have a relationship with them. And yeah, you can
Hmm.
start off with prayer and whatnot. It's easiest to start off with your ancestors, actually.
Mm.
because they're always connected with you. And that can be something like you just create a simple little altar, you say a prayer, you do a meditation, whatever it is, it's your practice. It's about finding your language and the way that you go in. But you start working with that, and it's literally like they're like your glam squad, like your spiritual team. You go to certain ones for certain things, and they show up for you whenever. And
Yeah.
it is a lot of times in very surprising ways.
So, um, the other thing I was going to ask you is,
Mhm.
do you think that people have gone through trauma? Obviously, you have many people. I mean, I guess no one enters adulthood unscarred. So we all have trauma to a certain extent. And I think a lot of people define trauma as just, war or sexual assault. And it's so much more than that, right? Um, it depends on you and how it is absorbed into your body, your being, and all that. But do you think there's a correlation between someone who has gone through trauma, gone through something really tough, and then coming out the other side with almost a gift? So whether that's intuition, whether that is, being able to help other people, because I find that most people who have gone through, I feel like the most beautiful people have gone through the most,
Mhm.
that have come out the other side. And I feel like with trauma, a lot of people come out with gifts because of that trauma
Mhm.
if they're healing from it, not running from it.
Oh, absolutely. I think, what I see in my work, at least, is that whatever it is that you find typically to help yourself in your own journey, that has something to do with whatever gift it is that you have to share with others.
Mm,
Somehow, some way, some part of that, right? Like how you write, like yours is very centered on writing and this medium of like communicating that way.
hmm.
Um, and I would wager there was probably a time where you felt like you couldn't use your voice, where you felt like you had to be repressed and all these different things.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's that thing that you got over that you have to share with other people because you can identify, right? And you want to help other people who are suffering with what you were going through too. I mean, ideally, I think most people do, are
Mhm.
wired to be compassionate towards others. So, yeah, absolutely.
If because you've gone through something traumatic, and by you I mean just people in general,
Mhm.
that you go from the visual I have is a stone to a prism, meaning by going through the hardship, the suffering, you come out the other side with a cape, with gifts, with something that allows you to then help other people. Then that's beautiful to me. Then to me that makes things worth it and makes sense. And there's a lot of dots then you could connect looking at your story.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It makes it so much more meaningful instead of just something that happened to you.
Yeah, because if you believe that you went through a lot of shit and trauma, and that was, and nothing good happened from that, then now you are still a prisoner, right? You still
Hmm.
are in your eyes a victim, and then suddenly, I mean, not suddenly, then you just kind of live in the trenches, and I think a lot of people do that.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's hard, because it's hard to go through that, and
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're suffering with. But there is hope, and there is light, and there is another side. There is another side of it, and maybe you just can't see that now.
Yeah, and I think you're a good example of that.
Hmm.
Your story. You mentioned the word vision quest, and that kind of landed for me. I love
Hmm.
that word, and it not only reminds me of the wrestling movie in the '80s when I was growing up,
Yes.
and I'm older than you, but I feel
Not
like
much.
we're kind of from the same generation,
Yeah.
both Asian. I know you're into music and food and culture and all that. Um, so yeah, so Vision Quest. People are listening are like, "What the fuck are they talking about?" It's an old '80s movie about a wrestler kind of coming of age, but the word Vision Quest is really interesting to me. What does that mean to you, and how do you apply that to not only your life but with other people?
A vision quest to me is going into the unknown to see the possibilities that are there.
Mm,
It's really a proving ground, to see what it is that you have in you, and if you're really going to, right, go the distance to find whatever it is that's possible there, not really having a set idea of it, but just being, whew, open to whatever it is that shows up.
So
I think it's a great adventure.
yeah, so for you, when did you start your Vision Quest? Was it after that traumatic incident?
Gosh, yeah, probably. That's when I really, really started. Because I remember after working with you, there was a period of maybe like 3 or 4 years where it was just,
Hmm.
so my wild oats, this baby bird that was free.
Right,
Right?
right.
But really learning about the world. And yeah, that's after that happened, that's when like
You
everything
wait, you mean
changed.
because you were in a relationship for so long and then getting out of that, then you were single?
Yeah. And
Is
then
that what you're
like,
talking about? Sowing your
no,
oats?
no, 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 no. But I
Or
mean, like, just well, no, like when I met you, like that, and then later on, uh going through the trauma and then becoming intuitive, that's when I really went on this vision quest of really
hmm.
becoming like everything that I was really meant to be. I just didn't want to suffer anymore. I knew there was more work after we were done. I knew
Right.
there was more work and I didn't want to do it. And so here we go.
Yeah, and I also feel like, and it's interesting we're being transparent about you, me coaching you, you being a client. Um, I felt like I could only take you so far. I mean, I feel like that with all my clients. Like I don't feel like I'm going to be the one that takes the client from whatever from suffering like through the entire character arc. Um, I just try to be a bright spot, knowing I'm only going to be one point in someone's journey, and so I almost feel like maybe I was someone just for you to kind of begin with, and then you were off and running, and then you went through lots of other experiences with other people and other catalysts in your life, and probably continue to, right?
Hmm. And then came back home, really, because I
Yeah,
mean, journey coaching and all of that,
sure, sure.
right?
So
Like the prodigal daughter.
yeah, you left home and then you returned.
Yeah.
Very different. I mean, the same
Yeah.
but different, right? Um,
Yeah.
What do you think about self betterment today? And also you being kind of from my generation, the explosion of it, and also being Asian,
Hmm.
self betterment wasn't a thing. I mean, we had books thrown at us, and we were supposed to get straight A's and go to a good university and all of that. So you come from that world, I'm sure. Uh,
Hmm.
Being a shaman and a life coach and all these things that I don't know how your parents feel about it, but what do you think about all of this stuff that's happening now, just with wellness becoming the new quad in high school?
I think it's beautiful. I think it's really, really needed. I think it's great. I will also say there's still a lot of people who hide their stuff anyway, even within the wellness
Oh
world.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
You mean a
fully
lot of people
possible.
wearing their t-shirt, just wearing a
Well,
t-shirt, right?
yeah, or spiritually bypassing whatever it is that you
Yep.
have.
Sure.
But I love it. I think it's a great way. I think people need it. I think there's a real need for authenticity. I think, you think of like our parents, right? That generation, not just being immigrants, but even before then, people weren't really allowed to say or talk or do any of these things. And what effect does repression have on someone?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, if you think about like in my work, I see a lot of ancestral trauma, right? Generational trauma, generational stuff that comes up and it just sits and it stews. So I think it's a real awakening. It's a real stepping into the idea that you as an individual, you have worth and a voice and it's powerful. And it's better to do that rather than to go along and get along with the rat race or whatever it is. And some people like are fine doing that and that's totally fine too. But there's just that there's options. Like you don't have to be locked into this very specific idea of this is what you need to be happy, right? You need
Right.
the kids, you need the house, you need the mortgage, you need the da 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 da. Instead, you can pursue what really feels like happiness to you.
Yeah, and that's happening just in the world in general. This idea of old blueprints, not people not tracing those anymore, especially ones that are passed down from parents, society, and all of that. You just mentioned, the mortgage, the picket fence. I've always said the picket fence has splinters, and I don't mean that in that I'm not anti-marriage or anything, but I'm just saying that it's not the fairy tale that we've been pitched, and,
Mhm.
and monogamy being on trial. People are questioning everything, how we meet. And I think especially with the pandemic, um, now, like how we work, how we, and the internet has given everyone a voice, or at least the ability to be a conduit, into someone's home. Everything is being shaken right now, where you can create your own definitions. And that is both terrifying and also exciting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that's how you really learn to set yourself free,
Hmm.
right? By shedding all of these old skins and all these old stories and saying, you know what? No, I want to write my own. I want to create my own, and I'm going to do it because that has value to me. It doesn't have to have value to you. So let me go and do it. And it's terrible because nobody's right broken that path open, right? No one's like gone and cut all the shit out for you, but you have to do it yourself. But that's also what makes it really, really great.
Yeah.
Really great. That's how you change the world, honestly.
By changing yourself.
Yeah, by let
Yeah.
by using your voice, by letting yourself shine, by
Yeah.
sticking, a flag in the sand, saying, "Here I am. Here you go. This
Yeah.
is me."
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's hard to do that. I know I lived outside in for half of my life, most of my life, and then I started to, I put my little flag in the sand, and I started to live inside out. And I felt very lucky because I did it when I had nothing, so it wasn't as hard as a lot of other people doing it when they do have a lot of things. It's hard because you could lose friends. You could,
Mhm.
people might think like, "What's going on with you?" But after my divorce, because I didn't know it, I didn't have anything. It was much easier for me to do. And I feel like, yeah, that's the beginning. And I wonder what kind of world we would live in if everyone was on that path, living inside out instead of outside in.
Oh, yeah, I think it would definitely be a lot cooler.
A lot cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot,
I think yeah, I
lot
think
more
we wouldn't have
creative.
yeah, I think we wouldn't have a lot of the problems that we do. I think people would be a lot happier. People would be honest in their relationships, honest with the work that they do, feel good about how it is that they spend their lives, man. Like people spend so much of their lives being miserable. Oh,
Yeah.
it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be that way. It really doesn't.
What do you think about the word compassion? What do you think about how that is also tied to trauma? I feel like a lot of people who have been through a lot as far as trauma come out the other side more empathetic with more compassion.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. And I think the ironic thing, though, is that for people who have been through trauma, the hardest person for them to be compassionate with is themselves.
Mm.
Such a
And
capacity for
and
other
why is that,
people,
you think?
because they think that whatever they went through makes them damaged goods.
Right.
And
Shame,
or yeah, and it's
defective.
really yeah, and it's really being able to show yourself compassion through all of your ways of being,
Yeah.
right? Not just when you're at your good points, but also when you're at your low. How can I be kind to myself? How can I be good to myself? That's when you can do that, that's when things really, really you learn to change it all.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really good place to end. But I want to ask you, and I've been asking the other interviews, the instructors in the lab, this question.
Mhm.
What was your greatest revelation or life lesson? And I'm going to break it down into categories. So,
Okay.
first would be love and relationships, and then work, career, and then finally friends and family. So, with love and relationships, and of course you have many, but if you were to pick one, what's one of your greatest revelations or learnings about love and relationships?
Um, don't settle, especially when it comes to sex and relationships and all that, because that energy stays with you for life. That is a
Mm.
connection that you have for life. So just make sure the people that you're connecting with that way are ones that you want to be connected with for life.
What do you mean
Uh,
by for life? Because you're not saying that whoever you choose to love is going to be forever, but you're saying the energy stays with you. What do you mean by that?
So we create energetic connections with everything, really. If you think about energy, it's really sticky. And
Mm,
when you're in relationship with someone, right, you create an even bigger sort of cord to them. It's sort of like an umbilical cord too, where it works
mm,
both ways,
right.
right? So someone's thinking of another person, right? You might suddenly, oh, want to text them or whatever that is. And so after a relationship is done, some people that cord is still active and you need to like learn to cut that. But then the thing that complicates it too is that with sex, you create this other different chord called a soul connection, where your souls, because it's the most intimate, sensitive part of you, both spiritually and physically,
Hmm.
you're just both going to be connected. Your energy is just there. So it's really good just to cleanse it out and things, but also to be sure if you're going to be bumping uglies with someone, bump uglies with someone that you want to be like, or someone that you want to have in your life in some sort of itsy bitsy baby capacity. Because it's easy. It's not easy. It's actually challenging to get rid sometimes of the negative energy. The positive energy is great, but let's not be confused by like their negative stuff, like taking that on.
Yeah. What is your greatest what is your greatest revelation or life lesson when it comes to work, passion, career, all of that stuff? Because you've had many
Do,
career transitions.
yes, doing meaningful work is worth everything.
Mm,
Everything, every
more,
sacrifice you have to make.
more than money.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Because money, you can make more money.
Yeah, no, I'm
And really,
joking.
but if you're really doing the work that you're supposed to do, the money will come in. If you're doing work that's really aligned with your purpose and really just bang on, the money will be there. It'll
Mm.
just show up, and it'll be so much more worth it. So much more worth it.
Also, I challenge everyone who's listening to this or watching this to redefine what success looks like,
Mhm.
What do you think about, so when it comes to friends and family,
Mm.
and I know you've had many relationships there too as well, struggled with, but also, good. What would be one of your greatest revelations when it comes to friends and family?
Empathy without boundaries is self-destruction. That's
Mm.
not my quote. That's not
Hmm.
my quote. That's someone else's who I can't remember, but I think that's a very
What does
good
that quote
quote.
mean to you? Empathy without boundaries is self-destruction.
That if you just keep giving and giving, and if you just do that with someone else, if you identify with their feelings so much that you just don't have boundaries and no one to say
Mm.
it's enough or take time for you or that's not my business, you are just going to destroy yourself in the process
Right.
of
You're
trying
not gonna
trying to
you're
rescue
gonna
someone.
you're gonna lose yourself. You're gonna be invisible. You're not gonna bring you to the table. Right.
Hmm. and,
Yeah.
and really, I think when you have that kind of empathy too, it's a little bit manipulative, a
Mm.
little bit,
Sure.
a
Sure.
little bit. Yeah.
That you're kind of taking instead of giving
Like
in
you're
a way.
doing it sort of to earn something from someone or
Right.
to show that you're this person or whatever, instead of
Right.
like really respecting what's best for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this conversation. Where can we find you?
You can find me on IG, Instagram, catalyst.charlene. You can find me on the Tat Lab. I'm there. I'm also Charlene Courpus, Heroes Journey Wellness. You can find me
Yeah.
that way.
Awesome. And so you teach two classes. You teach practical Buddhism, and then what else do you teach?
Empowering empaths and intuitives. So those are
Mm, right.
practical tools for people who are empaths or intuitives to get a hold of your life. So your gifts don't, just take everything over. And then practical Buddhism, I love it because these are the lessons I learned myself about how Buddhism can really help you on your wellness journey to
Mhm.
create a different mindset and to really be kinder with yourself and just find your way out of suffering. They've been practicing it for thousands of years for a reason.
Yeah.
It might be because it works.
Yeah, and I I gotta say, I really value you being on the team, and also so proud of you how far you've come, and me following your story and seeing little here, little there. Just it's been amazing, and so what a gift, and so thank you for being a part of the team.
Oh, no, thank
Yeah.
you. It's a real pleasure to do this with you. It's so because it really does feel full circle in so many ways. And
Mm,
also, I didn't know, but like Filipinos and Koreans, like they have a lot of like partnership things. Like there's a lot of like K-pop drama stuff that in the Philippines. I had no idea that was a thing. So look at us. It feels like you're my, I don't know, older cousin or something.
Wait, Filipinos and Koreans have what with K-pop? You mean like they
No,
have?
no, they just have a lot of cultural exchange. Like there's a lot of
Oh,
Koreans in the Philippines
yeah.
and like Filipinos, they watch a lot of K-pop and a lot of Korean dramas and all these things. I had
Oh,
no
sure.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a thing. Who would have thought?
I've been called Filipino. I get mistaken for Filipino often. So yeah, we're like siblings.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have
Uh,
it any other way.
yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Charlene. Be well.
Thank you so much,
Uh-huh.
John.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.